We have now the next installment of the Redpill Playbook series. And this series is designed to help men navigate their instinctual drives and control our sexual and social dynamics. All right. And in this installment, we're going to be talking about the female sexual instinct known as hypergamy. Maybe you've heard this term floated around online and you're not really sure what it means. It means girls like assholes, right? Well, sort of. It's a bit more nuanced than that. And if you've been struggling at all to understand what it takes to become sexually attractive to a woman, then hopefully this will, really help you start down the process of understanding how this works, because this isn't something that's taught in school at all or really talked about in popular culture at all. You kind of have to seek this sort of thing out, but you'll find that once you understand how female hypergamy works, you're going to see its influence everywhere. The red pill truth about females and their sexuality is that women have a biological instinct that causes them to be sexually attracted to men with status. Okay? This is what female hypergamy is, all right? And we talked about previously how the men have an instinct that's rooted in what we could call polygamy. They got this polygamist instinct where they want to mate with a bunch of women, right? And we talked about how that's just kind of like a reproductive strategy for men. And it makes sense when you look at, the mechanics of how things all work. But women, they can't have a bunch of children at once. A man can impregnate many women and have a bunch of kids at once. A woman, she can usually only have one, and, barring twins or that sort of thing. And so because of that, she needs to maximize the resources available to that one child and to obviously herself, because she has to care for that child. So if a woman wants to be, genetically secure, what she's got to do then is she's got to find a guy who can help her with those resources, help her with that security. So that's why women, they have a sexual attraction to status and power. So a guy who's rich, that's automatically attractive to her. A guy who's physically fit, has good genes. Okay, well, it's like, she's only going to have a few kids, so we want to make sure that they have good genes. She wants to make sure that he is socially connected and adept, right? This is why the charismatic guy is attractive to women, because that's a very potent sort of survival mechanism. If a guy can get along with people properly, or, at the very least, hold his own, right? You don't want a guy who's a complete pushover, because he's not going to be able to really protect you necessarily, right? As a woman. And so women, these are the things that make them attracted to a guy. And this is where a lot of this idea that women are attracted to assholes comes in, because let's look at an asshole, okay? All right. That kind of guy, he's often, socially dominant. Okay, he's going to be able to push his way to the top of a hierarchy. Maybe he's confident in himself because he does have something worth being confident about. Maybe he has a high sense of his own status, and maybe he can display that. The reason he's comfortable being an asshole is because he feels like he's special. And the way that he holds and carries himself makes other people sometimes think that maybe he is special or something like that. And women, they enjoy that confidence. They are attracted to it, even if maybe they're repulsed by it on some, higher level of who they are. What you'll see, and this is where a lot of like the men's groups and stuff online, they really start hating on women because they look at instances where women really sort of give in to their hypergamist instinct. And, I think either way, if men give in to their polygamist instinct, they become disgusting. And also, women, if they give in to their hypergamous instinct, they also become disgusting. So a man, he just becomes, a man whore who will sleep around, use porn, use prostitutes, do all this kind of stuff that, is beneath his dignity as a human, and usually beneath the dignity of the other people he's interacting with, from my perspective at least. That's not very good. But then a woman who's really like caught up, who hasn't really evolved beyond her basest instincts, she might actually try and get her needs met through different men. So maybe she has like this guy he's fit and he's kind of able to display masculine dominance. Maybe that's the guy she sleeps with. Okay. Maybe the guy she marries, though, is a rich guy and she's not really attracted to him, but she likes his money. And then maybe she has an affair with the other guy who's really charismatic, who can make her feel special and secure and excited. There's all different kinds of takes out there on this sort of thing. And, I'm speaking in generalizations usually, but this is the general way that female attractiveness sort of works. And many guys, they really struggle with this because they were never taught about this. What you were taught by your mom is you just got to be polite and nice, right? That's all you got to do. You just got to find a girl, tell her you like her, write her a little love note, and, it'll be good, right? And this is the nice guy fallacy. And I assume many of the people who watch this stuff, you're already familiar with how being a nice guy doesn't really work. And in fact, it usually just lands you in the friend zone, if it even gets you that, like the nice guy is kind of like, the nice guy is the pre-simp. All right. The simp is just the nice guy who's gone like depraved, who has like kind of realized, all right, being nice actually isn't working. Like I'm not actually going to connect with a girl. So it's time to start just worshiping them, and then maybe she'll let me like sniff her feet or something like that. Just behaving pitifully and like fawning over these women and putting them on a pedestal and thinking that, oh, if I worship her more than others, then somehow she'll find me special and good. And that's just not the way that it's going to work, because any sort of behavior like that, like when you worship a woman, that devalues yourself, right? That actually lowers your own status. That puts her above you. And if you want to make a woman attracted to you, it's actually kind of got to be the other way. She has to feel like you are the catch, right? You have to look like the high status one in her eyes, or at least of equal status. It kind of depends on how healthy the woman is and, her relation to herself. You're never going to turn a girl on by being extra polite. Okay. It has to be combined with more than that. And this is why, the guy who tries to essentially relate to girls as if he was a girl, like this is where guys who grew up primarily around women really struggle to romantically relate to women, because he learns social dynamics from women. And so if you talk to a girl like the way that a girl talks to her girlfriends, then you're going to be just another one of her girlfriends, right? And this is what a lot of guys get really frustrated with. They're like, oh, I compliment her clothes and I, am nice to her and I hold the door and we talk about her favorite things and all that kind of stuff. Like, you're not creating any polarity. You're not creating any charge. You're not demonstrating that you're someone that she wants to have a part of. The kind of opposite end of the spectrum here is what you can think of as the pickup artist. Okay, the pickup artist's play on female hypergamy is basically like learn how it works, learn how to manipulate it, and learn how to make it work for you. Okay, that's the idea of pickup artistry. This red pill sort of underground movement around this sort of stuff is about rejecting that whole blue pill nice guy mentality and then learning the mechanics of seducing women. In some ways, this is good, because this is getting people to really understand authentic, real sexual dynamics. But there's also issues with this, because it becomes sort of like this disconnected sort of activity. So to put it plainly, like there are different kinds of psychological techniques and things like that which you can use that make yourself seem more attractive to women. Like there are ways that you can, make it seem like your sexual market value is higher than hers, which then induces attraction and that sort of thing. The problem with a lot of the pickup artist stuff is that it's very superficial. All right. Like I think of a lot of this stuff as basically the male equivalent to makeup. That's what game is. All right. It's the male equivalent of makeup. It's a way to make yourself appear more attractive than maybe you naturally are. And this isn't inherently bad, but you just got to understand the limits of the strategy, right? So, for example, like let's flip it here for a second. Let's look at the woman who wants to get a dude, okay? And the way that she goes about it is by putting on a bunch of makeup, dressing very provocatively, and going out to a club where, her and a bunch of other people are drunk, okay? Like, that strategy of putting on the makeup, getting the sexy outfit, showing off the cleavage and dancing all sexy, that's probably going to get her attention from a guy. But what kind of attention is it really going to get, right? Is it going to be in a kind of attention that lasts beyond when you wake up in the same bed with that person in the morning, if they're even still there, right? A similar sort of thing happens with guys who learn game, is that if they don't actually internalize the techniques that they're using to make themselves seem more charismatic, high status, etc., then they have to basically keep the facade up if they want to keep the girl interested, right? It's like, I've heard stories about women who've been married to their man for, 30 years. And it's like, my husband has never seen me without makeup. It's like, whoa, holy shit. That's commitment to the game. And, an equivalent would be, a guy who, never, shows vulnerability to his wife. Okay, because he's learned that, all right, if I show vulnerability, then that makes me seem like a weak, nice guy. And so, I can't ever do that. I'm going to rely on these game principles to make sure that my girl, or, women in general, stay attracted to me. It's like, okay, chill. There's room for authenticity as long as you understand the bigger mechanics and you can integrate them into your life. And this is really where my take comes into it. And I know other guys have come to this conclusion as well, but I think it's important to really outline here. It's like, if you want to have all of the benefits of, game and being a pickup artist or whatever, but without any of the inauthenticity or manipulation, then really all you got to do is learn how to focus on honoring your dignity and the dignity of others. Now, this might sound to the more jaded of you out there, this might sound like bullshit, but I'm really convinced that this is the case, and this is actually going to be the focus of most of the rest of the series, is talking about how this is true. Okay, and if you stay with me, I'm confident you'll see that this is way better than just learning lines and forcing yourself to go out there and do sets of pickup and that sort of thing for attracting the kind of woman that you're actually looking for. Let's think about this, all right? If you believe in your inherent dignity, then that means that you believe that a part of you is unconditionally, invincibly, and perfectly good, at your core. Okay, and this is, you can't prove this, but if you choose to believe this, then that already is a little chunk of invincible confidence. Okay, and confidence is one of the highest markers of status. It's like knowing the status of your own, we're going to get spiritual here, your own divine essence, in a sense. You have to understand that you have this kind of value. And if you do, and you start acting like that, or you start reflecting that value in your life, well, then that's going to do more for your attractiveness than almost anything else. What this ultimately ends up amounting to is, when you honor your dignity and you really tune into it and you honor the dignity of others, is that you start operating on win-win energy, where if you can create a win-win between you and, the other person that you're interested in, or even just between you and yourself, then you play. Awesome. Everybody's winning. Surplus, abundance, that kind of good stuff, right? But if you can't, then you don't play, right? And that's where the more assertive and dominant aspect is the refusal to play shitty games with people. And so this is what I would describe as the path of radiant masculinity. So this idea of radiant masculinity, it's an idea that I've been developing for a while, but that's what I want to be doing this series, is really fleshing out exactly what this looks like. So let's look a little bit about this win-win topic in different areas of life. First, let's look at just self-discipline, just between you and yourself. What's the win-win there? Well, it's about creating a win-win between your current and future selves. All right. If you want aligned, healthy, sustainable discipline, that's what you need to be creating. All right. You need to be creating a trade with yourself where it's your current self is able to still feel like it's living a good life. Like you can't just punish yourself constantly and expect that any kind of discipline like that to last. Okay, maybe for a little while, but like you have to actually want that thing in the moment. And the fact that you get to pursue it and feel good about pursuing it in the moment, that would be a win for yourself, the current self. But really, that's what you're trying to construct is like, all right, my future self, I want that person to be really happy, but I also want my current self to be happy. So like, what's the appropriate level of sacrifice that I'm willing to put in right now, over the next day, over the next few weeks, that will allow me to move forward in a way where not only one, I'm happy to live this life, but two, I'm happy with the outcome. What about though, if we want to make money? All right, how do we apply the win-win there? Well, that one's probably the most obvious. It's like if you want to create sustainable wealth and you don't want to have to constantly manipulate people and grind and crush yourself and, do all this kind of stuff, well, then all you have to do is learn how to create a win-win with one person, okay, where you get money and they get value. And then you just have to figure out, all right, how do I scale that, right? This is what I was talking about earlier in the call. If you can create that win-win, well, then you can make money. You can become wealthy. Right? That's really all it is. And understanding the mechanics of how to scale a win-win like that. And it's, that's obviously there's more to it than that, but that's the fundamental thing that needs to guide your thought process. And so if you can get money in that way, well then boom, again, you're more attractive. You've raised your status and you haven't done any manipulating. You haven't done any tricking. All right. Okay. What if you want to be charismatic? Another important thing for being attractive as a man. Okay. Well, you create the win-win. Again, it's like, all right, you learn what a group of people enjoy and you know what you enjoy and you find the common ground there and you stimulate that in your conversation. You learn, oh, this group of people, they like this sense of humor. All right, well then, I like that sense of humor too. I'm going to bring that. I'm going to share that. That's going to be my gift and we're all going to win from it. And guess what? Your social standing is going to rise, right? But this is also where you find your edge. This is where you find your more dominant, assertive aspect as well, because you just don't stand for bullshit. Like if someone's putting you in a situation where you are not winning, well then you get the hell out of that situation. You tell them to take a hike. Be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. No, yeah, I don't like it. It also means that you're not going to be a simp. You're not going to be kind of like this constantly pleasing, sacrifice everything to make other people happy, right? You're not going to become weak in that regard. Both of those things, like becoming weak or just becoming, an asshole or basically failing to hold your own interest, that's all stuff that makes you seem unattractive because, if a woman sees you being manipulated, sees you getting pushed around, sees you mismanaging your resources, and back of her head, she's like, that's not someone I can really trust to be the provider, to be the person who could essentially, father my children, right? Even if it's not about fathering children, even if it's just like dating or whatever, like that's the instinctual thing. That's the baseline metric that you're being raised against or measured against because that's the thing that governs their sexual attraction, right? So that's what you got to be thinking about. And then if we're going to apply this to sexuality, all right, it's the same thing. You got to learn how to create a win-win with the woman, right? And this is popularly phrased as the idea of like you don't make a woman your world, you let her into your world, okay? And that makes sense, right? Because if you make a woman your world, well then all of a sudden, like she is the source of all your power and status and everything, right? And she doesn't really want that, right? She wants access to your goodness, all the stuff that you have control over, like your resources, your attention, your energy. She wants a piece of that. And if all of that is just her, all of a sudden, unless she's a narcissist, she's not really going to be interested. And so, you got to learn how to create that win-win there, right? And so that means the appropriate level of giving her attention, but then also focusing on your own shit, right? And not giving her too much space to take advantage of you, right? Like if she's going to hit you with all kinds of, shit tests or emotions or, stuff that just doesn't serve you, you have to be able to field that in a way where you don't end up losing. And that means being able to stay in your frame and not being controlled by whatever she's going through, and that's actually going to make her feel safer, knowing that she can't bring you down with whatever her struggles are. And we'll get more into this. This is kind of like the idea of shit tests, which are an important topic. But it's basically you got to be able to say yes or no, depending upon how well it serves you both. And, people would say, well, isn't there a place for genuine sacrifice? Yeah, there is. But you have to own it. As a man, if you're going to make a sacrifice for a woman, you have to be happy with that sacrifice right there, period. You can't be thinking, well, if I sacrifice here, I better get something in return. Because then that's not sacrifice. That's manipulation. And that's what a lot of the blue pill nice guys essentially do. It's I'm going to be nice to you and then you're going to fuck me, right? And then when they don't, you've probably seen the memes. And if you haven't, they're sad and also funny about the guys who are trying to flirt up a woman and the girl shows lack of interest, and then the dude freaks out, calls her a slut, and says she's ugly and that sort of thing. It's because he's trying to manipulate her. It wasn't authentic. It wasn't real, right? And so you got to be able to basically live according to who you want to be. You got to be willing to do what you think is right without expecting anything in return because you want to be that person, right? And that's the only way to really, I think, navigate your own frame, right? And if you can find ways to do that, to behave in a way that you like, but then also serves the other person, and we'll get into the mechanics of that more, how to create sexual tension and excitement and that kind of thing, then you're going to be fine. You're going to be powerful. You're going to be attractive. You're going to be able to find a woman for sure, maybe many women, but that's, if you watch my last video, that's not my, that's not my recommendation to go that route. So hopefully you guys found this useful. If you did, let me know, let me know what you disagree with. I know these kinds of topics are very contentious. A lot of people like to put their 2 cents in and give me shit for my takes on things. And if that's the case, go ahead, let me hear what you guys have. But otherwise, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you turn on those notifications and all that good stuff.